Hey YouTube, Matches 860. Smoking an all-wood pipe this morning with some straight Virginia 525 from Cornell and Deal. It's a beautiful Thanksgiving day in Connecticut, about 40 degrees. We're going to tell the Thanksgiving story as best I can. Anybody who's interested in the entire story, there's a great book called Saints and Strangers. It's by George Willison. Very in-depth. Tells the whole story from beginning to end. Very, very, very interesting. So, back in around 1620, people in England and a few other parts of Europe were experiencing religious persecution, and they were seeking a better way of life, or a freer way of life. And England was looking to expand towards the colonies, and the people that we now call the Pilgrims, historians referred to as the Saints. There were about 102 of them that would end up on the Mayflower on the voyage to the New World. And along with them, to get the colony going, were what they called strangers. They were more or less laborers, farm-type people, tradespeople. And the original plan was that the Mayflower would cross the Atlantic and anchor about a mile up the Hudson River. They had heard this was a great area to get a settlement started, and at that time that area was considered northern Virginia. Virginia was basically the whole East Coast. So originally there were two ships that were going to come across. There were all kinds of problems, and eventually everybody got onto the Mayflower. 102 passengers and another 30 crew. And by the time everything got moving along, it was November, October, November. And in December, they finally made land, spotted land, the northern tip of Cape Cod. If you watch my video from the ocean that I did back in September, that's not too far from where they first spotted land. And they realized immediately that they were off somewhat due to the storms and everything that they had encountered. So they headed south along the back of the Cape And as they went to go around the elbow of the Cape into Long Island Sound, there was a terrible storm. And that area of the Cape, even in good weather, is difficult to navigate. There are cross currents, lots of rocks, and the ship nearly foundered. So they decided to turn around, head back north up the back of the Cape. They went around the tip of what's now Provincetown and anchored just inside Cape Cod Bay. You can imagine, after 2 months being crammed onto that ship, which was only about 110 feet long and 25 feet wide. There was some scuttlebutt on board that once they dropped anchor and sent people on land, that everybody was going to scatter. They didn't want that, so that's when they drafted the Mayflower Compact. Which basically helped to unify everybody and reinforce the idea that they were going to start a settlement and they were going to be as one. They did a few days of exploration around Cape Cod Bay. They had heard from other previous explorers that there was a nice harbor across the bay on the mainland. And after a couple of encounters with the Nauset Indians, they decided that the actual Cape Cod area wasn't what they wanted, and they went over to Plymouth. And being December, it was already very cold. There was snow on the ground. And they spent most of them that entire winter on board ship. And again, being crammed onto a ship and being in such close quarters, a lot of the passengers died of scurvy, tuberculosis, pneumonia. By springtime, half of them had died. At that point, they developed the Plymouth area, and again had some more encounters with the Indians. And you have to understand that the Indians were very skeptical of the Europeans, because several of their members had been kidnapped a couple of years earlier by an English explorer. But eventually the Indians worked with the settlers and taught them how to grow some food, the game to hunt, and how to survive. So by the following autumn, the crops that the Indians had showed the Pilgrims how to plant had done very well. And at this point, the Pilgrims were also teaching the Indians something about religion. They decided it was a time for Thanksgiving. Give thanks to the Lord for the passengers who made it through that long winter, and to give thanks for the great amount of food that came up from the crops. So they had a 3-day celebration with the Indians, and they ate and ate and ate. Lobster, shellfish, seafood, ducks, geese. And I guess you'd say a great time was had by all. Unfortunately for the Indians, the Europeans brought with them many viruses that they themselves were immune to. And within a very short time, I think it was like 5 years, the Indian population lost half their numbers. As the Backy butcher pointed out to me, some of that may have been due to STDs as well. I'm sure there was some of that going on. So at any rate, that was the first Thanksgiving. And over the years, a couple of presidents have put a little bit of a different twist on it. George Washington declared a day of Thanksgiving to celebrate our independence. Abraham Lincoln declared Thanksgiving for the ending of the Civil War. And then finally, Franklin Roosevelt, I guess, really got it off the ground and said that we needed a national day of Thanksgiving and that all of the states should celebrate it on the same date, because some states weren't celebrating, some were celebrating on a certain date and other states were celebrating on another. So it was around the 1940s that the date actually became the fourth Thursday of the month. And today, Thanksgiving is pretty much about getting together with your family and having a big turkey dinner and a lot of food. And it's also become the kickoff for the Christmas season. Black Friday, which is tomorrow, the stores will be mobbed. And I guess that's probably the reason that people forget the whole Thanksgiving story, is because it's kind of changed over the years. But it's a big holiday here in the U.S., and that's pretty much the story. Thanks an awful lot for watching, and we'll catch you in the next vid.